It's better to shoot too high and then figure out you need to pull back than to aim too low.
Whatever it is that you do it with passion, do it with interest, give it your best.
WFSU Public Media's STEM adventures are brought to you by Atkins and FSU's National High Magnetic Field Laboratory.
Ignition sequence start. 6.
Since 2006, WFSU Public Media and the National High Magnetic Field Laboratory at Florida State University have held summer camps for young women interested in science, technology, engineering, and math, also known as STEM. Based on the national PBS program called SciGirls, these hands-on experiences at a variety of locations around our community have encouraged many middle and high school girls to consider and pursue careers in STEM fields. Over the years, the camps expanded, adding more girls and more adventures. But this year, COVID-19 changed the plans for 2020. Now, instead of heading into the field to learn and experiment, we're bringing STEM adventures to you.
The Challenger Learning Center is formally FAMU FSU College of Engineering's K through 12 STEM outreach, but we also work with Leon County Schools and we work with the tri-state area to provide supplemental STEM education, either through students coming to visit us or going to them. I'm Lane Mikesell. I'm the Educational Programs Coordinator at Challenger Learning Center of Tallahassee. We have several different things that students can do pre-COVID when they would come visit us that include the Imax Theater, the Downtown Digital Dome. The Digital Dome is kind of awe-inspiring, especially when it just looks like the night sky, and especially when they're doing their shows in there and they're bringing up planets and things like that. It's very exciting, especially for little kids. So the simulator, it's not a ride. Some people expect it to be a ride, but it's more an educational experience. So students, they will work in teams in both the spacecraft and in the mission control room, but they basically have to communicate to complete a mission. The simulator is very exciting for kids when they first come in. I think sometimes it can be a little overwhelming, but once they start to get into their roles and they understand that they are capable and able to do it, they definitely leave with a sense of understanding. And that's one of the things that we really highlight is that you were able to do this. And you know, if you could do this, you can do anything. And if you want to be an astronaut, you did it today. So it's certainly a possibility.
I'm really excited to welcome Roshni Joshi today from Google, who will be talking to us. Roshni, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and talk to all the folks at SciGirls. So as Roxanne mentioned, my name is Roshni. I am part of Google Cloud and I'm based out here in Chicago, so joining you live from my spare bedroom at home. I have been at Google for a little bit over a year, and for the last 22 years I've had a career in technology. I have been mostly in on the vendor side, as in I work with different people in the industry, are my customers, and find out what they are looking to do, what they're looking to build, what business challenges they're trying to solve, and we help build them for those. Most recently, in my current role, I'm part of Google Cloud's customer engineering team, where we work with our enterprise customers to understand what they're trying to accomplish and help build those things on our Google platform, Google Cloud platform.
So how would you describe what you do to the general public?
Absolutely. So in order to describe what I do to the general public, I usually start with a little bit of background and history on Google. So for the last 21 years, Google has been most popularly defined by our search engine, right? But really, there are many, many different business units across Google, and all of us are anchored around a mission statement, which is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And if you look at our plethora of products, each one of our products aims to do just that. And Google wants to become not only the place where you come to find answers, but the place where you come to get help to get things done in your life. So whether you look at Google YouTube, Google Maps, Google Search, our Gmail, you're going to all of these applications to get things done. And each one of these applications that I just mentioned has over 1 billion monthly users. So more than 1 billion people across the globe are using these applications in any given month. So Google Cloud, which is where I work, is the enterprise-focused division of Google, which means we work with bigger companies and help them accomplish the same kind of things. So take the same hyperscale technologies that we've built at Google that support billions of users and apply it to their businesses to solve the same kind of problems that we've solved over the last 21 years or so. So that's my job. Super exciting. I get to talk to different customers every day. I get to find out what they're trying to do, what problems they're trying to solve, and then I try to map those problems back to technology solutions that are available on Google Cloud. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. What got you interested in this career?
So I wish I could say that it was a super planful career move. I'll give you a little bit of background of where I came from. So I grew up in India, and I came to the United States to get my master's. I got my bachelor's in engineering from India, and my focus was electrical engineering. And along the way, I realized as I was studying for my electrical engineering degree, and actually when I was pursuing my master's, my first interest was to get a further education in semiconductors or maybe biomedicine. That was one of my other interest areas. One of the things that I realized though is I really love human collaboration, human interaction, working with people. And a degree in electrical engineering, while it satisfied the curiosity in me and the researcher in me, didn't really satisfy the part of me that wanted to the human interaction and the human collaboration. So my next area of interest was computer science, based on the fact that I really like it when problems come together and we have a logical conclusion, and computer science was able to cater to that part of me. So I chose to get a master's in computer science, and initially I started my career as an application developer, and then I focused on building technology infrastructure solutions, doing a lot of the practitioner work, which means I was actually building things. And then as I worked in different roles, I realized that what I loved about my job, the part that I loved, was talking to the people at the end customer to find out what they wanted, and meeting different people and learning what they wanted and building for those. And that's essentially what I do today. So it took me a good 15 years in my career before I got to where I wanted to get to, but now I'm here and I love it. So I wish I could say it was planfully organized, but one thing sort of led to another. And I didn't sort of start out my career thinking I'm going to be a customer engineering director one day, but I sort of arrived there through a number of different career paths that I chose based on what I like to do.
what advice would you have for middle school and high school girls?
So I have a 16-year-old. So I have a high schooler and I have a 13-year-old son. So I have one of both. And I was asking them, hey, what would you like to hear from a 45-year-old? And they were like, Mom, we don't want to hear anything from you. So I'm not, my kids didn't help me much. My daughter suggested, well, maybe you could share with them like what you took in high school, but that wouldn't really translate very well. So I guess the advice I would share from a career perspective is it might sound a little generic, but truly, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was 16 or when I was 17 or even when I was 20, right? I switched my career from electrical engineering, hardcore, working on semiconductors, working on printed circuit boards, to something that was totally different. Not totally, it's still STEM, but very different from what I was doing. So it's okay to focus on what you think you're interested in, but it's also okay to switch your interests based on how you see your interests evolving, and also keeping track on how you see the market around you evolve. And I didn't quite realize the second part of it, like the market evolution. And I didn't know when I was making my career decision that computer science would be such a big thing, especially after the year 2000. But if I was to look back at my younger self, I would have maybe paid closer attention to where is the market going, right? So that would be one big thing I would ask you to maybe not worry about. Don't worry so much about, I need to know exactly where I want to go when I'm 16. It's okay. You won't know. You will start down a number of different things, and even when you start your career in one place, you will end up at a different place. So my advice to you would be, like I said, don't worry too much about where you want to go. Focus on what you're doing right now, and whatever it is that you do it with passion, do it with interest, give it your best. And if it's not the thing that interests you, go find out what interests you. Don't spend your time, don't waste your time, give it your all. But if it doesn't work for you, don't waste your time like working on something that isn't meaningful to you.
So the last question I have for you is, recently we've seen social movements like Me Too, and even more recently Black Lives Matter. Is there any advice that you have or any ideas that you have of how scientists and leaders in STEM could address the lack of diversity in STEM fields?
So I'll address my ideas around lack of diversity, and it's something that I'm super passionate about. And all of us are going through the events over the last few days, few weeks, in dramatically different ways. Some days it doesn't feel like business as usual. It doesn't feel like everything is normal from a day-to-day perspective as we are going around our work lives. Having said that, the first thing I want to acknowledge is every aspect of our lives today are touched by technology. So the need for diversity in STEM is even stronger than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certainly 15 years ago, right? Whether you're looking at gender diversity, geodiversity, generational diversity, these are super important perspectives to include in every facet of our digital world, because everything, like every industry, is going through this transformation, and the products of our future need to incorporate all colors, all genders, all types of sexual orientation, religious orientation, all of that, right? We have to include that in our tapestry. So the thing that we are trying to do, I can talk to what we are trying to do to incorporate more diversity at Google is, first of all, we are super focused on how we hire, and even taking a step back, we are very, very intentional about measuring our impact of diversity, right? Every year, Google publishes our diversity report, and we've been one of the first companies to do that. We've been doing that for a number of years because we want to rank ourselves. We want to see are we an A? Were we an A last year and did we drop to a B, or are we a C now, right? We want to see across like various different intersections how we are doing in diversity. The second thing we are doing is, looking at the diversity we are bringing in, and that's a part of the measurement that we do ultimately, but looking at who we are bringing in and being very intentional about our hiring. The third thing that we are super focused on from a product perspective is making sure that as we are building our products, I'm using Google Chrome right now. We are using Meet right now for this meeting. Each one of these products have been built with diverse skin tones in mind. So for example, the camera of the phone or the device I'm using right now, it was built in mind with the different skin tones of the different people who will be using the phone, so that it adjusts the light. So think about even little things like that need to be looked through a diversity lens. So we are actually fostering not only our own employee resource groups and asking them to provide input into all our products, whether they are your Nest devices, or your Pixel phones, or your Chromebooks, but we are also seeking out an external community of users to have direct input into our product. And thirdly, we are constantly measuring ourselves against the products that we produce to make sure that they meet our diversity guidelines. Specifically, artificial intelligence and machine learning is something that you'll hear a lot about in the industry. It's what everybody's trying to do, and we have a whole ethics committee around artificial intelligence, specifically because it impacts so many things. So we want to make sure that diversity is something that we are building into our artificial intelligence models, so that it doesn't favor one ethnicity more than the other. It doesn't favor one racial group more than the other. It doesn't sort of perpetrate any kind of biasing, whether it's gender or racial, into the products, or not just the products that we are building, but the products that, for example, at Google Cloud, that we offer to the customers that they are using and building on top of, and that doesn't get further propagated. So we're super intentional about that as well. Hopefully that answers your question.
That definitely does. Thank you so much, Roshni. Is there anything you want to add, or any closing statements you want to make?
Just that love the fact that this program is happening, that you're doing this. To all my friends who are watching this, please, we need you in STEM. We absolutely need the gender representation in STEM. Today, if I look across the board, specifically the number of women in the industry that I'm in the segments that I'm in, it's less than 20%. We want to raise that number. So please continue in your efforts to study, to learn, and to adopt a career in STEM.
Thank you so much.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. We have a liftoff.
Computers make it possible for us to travel beyond the Earth's atmosphere. You can learn some of the basic principles for creating code without even having a computer. For this experiment, you're going to need 5 to 10 cups. They can be paper or plastic. Also, have some paper to write your code on. Use a pen and ruler or construction paper to create a grid. Each block is equal to half the width or diameter of the cup. Here is the key to your movements. Pick up the cup. Put down the cup. Move cup forward 1 block. Move cup backward 1 block. Flip the cup over. Now design a shape using the cups, writing down each step. Take a photo of the steps and share the code with a friend. They are the computer receiving your program. See if they can replicate your design using only your code and the key. Try different shapes, challenge each other, and have fun.
I'm Neha Iyer, and I'm talking with fellow SciGirl Chandler Dowie, who's now a college student. Hi Chandler, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I know that you're attending UF, and I just wanted to know, what are you planning on, what are you majoring in?
I am a biochemistry major, which is a chemistry major with a biochemistry specialization.
Are you minoring in anything?
Yes, astronomy.
What are you planning to do with those degrees?
I want to go on to get my PhD in astrobiology and hopefully work studying alien biology in either NASA or the ESU.
How did you get interested in this field?
I've been interested in space and aliens for a long time. I really liked Star Trek and that sort of stuff when I was younger. So as I got older, I wanted to find a way to kind of translate that passion into a career. So I was doing some research and I found out about astrobiology and I figured, hey, that sounds like something that I am both physically capable of doing, because I'm not very minded, but I do love chemistry and I love biology, and studying the alien or physiology of aliens would fall into that category, and blah 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 wound up with a focus on astrobiology.
Okay. And what exactly would be the career track for someone interested in astrobiology?
It'd probably be something. Well, what I'm doing is I'm focusing specifically on the biochemical aspect of astrobiology. So that probably would be more of the microscopic aspect of alien physiology. I think it's such a young field that you could really get to your goal in a lot of different routes. So I would say find an area of science that you really like and you think would be applicable, and however you need to argue for it to be applicable. Because really, I think it's your own argument that's going to get you into the field rather than kind of fitting a set criteria. Because if you want to say, I want to study engineering, but I want to work in astrobiology, that still definitely applies because you still need to have ways to gather specimens and whatever and so forth. And that's completely different from biochemistry, but it still winds up being in the same field. So however you want to get there with whatever major you want to study, you can do it. You just kind of have to keep your eye on the end goal and know that you're probably going to have a lot of schooling and a lot of top level clearance from one person or another in order to reach that goal. But if you have the perseverance and the ambition, then you can make it work from, I think, a lot of different science-based majors.
So did SciGirls help you in any way to kind of, I guess, nurture your interest in this area?
Yes, very much. I have a lot of very distinct memories from the year that I went. I had a really good time. I met really nice people. And I distinctly remember one day we went into a veterinary clinic and we got to watch a procedure. It was a kitten getting spayed, I believe. I think so. It was a girl. So she was getting her tubes tied. And I remember I nearly blacked out watching like the procedure happen. I remember having to like sit down and eat a donut because it was like freaking me out. I decided then and there wasn't going to be a doctor, but I did think that the things that were going on were very interesting. But I kind of wanted to work more on a microscopic rather than macroscopic scale.
So what's been your most challenging experience with, I guess, your journey at UF or even before UF, just your journey in kind of your interests?
I have a tendency to sort of overload myself, and UF has a lot of very interesting classes, so it's kind of a problem for me to not sort of overfill my plate with too many credits at one time, also because I have a job. I work as an RA at UF, so that also becomes a time management issue. So time management and realistically deciding how much I can get done in one semester has always kind of been an issue even since high school. I wanted to do science fair and major band programs all at the same time, and it never quite worked out when you sign up for about 12 things and you've only got so many hours in a day. That's sort of been the main thing that I've been working on, is just realizing my own limitations.
What advice do you have for girls who really are interested in learning more about a career in the STEM field, but they can't find opportunities? Like, what initiatives should they take?
The initiative I always took was going and directly asking my teachers, especially female science teachers that I had, or science teachers that I thought were good people that I thought I could trust. They usually kind of sent me in the right direction, that sort of thing. I went to a lot of different camps to kind of get different experiences, and that gave me some different connections. And I'd ask the counselors, and I went to a biochemical engineering camp one summer. And that was where I found out a lot of details about astrobiology. And it was from one of the female counselors who was actually an engineering major, but she had a pre-med focus. So that's why she knew about it. She kind of sent me in that direction. But I think always asking the people that are in even generally the field that you want to go into, it can never hurt. At the very least, you're probably going to make a friend or a connection, and that can always help later. And then Google is always your best friend.
Do you have any advice for girls interested in thinking about a career in the STEM field?
Don't limit yourself in what you think you can do. It's better to shoot too high and then figure out you need to pull back than to aim too low. Right? Like, if you want something bad enough, you're probably going to get it. So I would say research, make connections, talk to people, get outside of your comfort zone, and just believe in yourself. It's very cheesy, but without confidence, you're not going to get a lot of opportunities because you have to believe in yourself enough to go and ask for those opportunities. But just know how to help yourself first and foremost.
And do you have any advice for any girls who are kind of afraid to speak up, or any person who's, afraid to ask questions and really put themselves out there?
Always ask questions. Even if you aren't going to say them out loud, at least keep it in your head. That's one thing that I think is really important. Just always be willing to question, especially like authority figures or like where you're getting your information from. Always be willing to do a little bit extra research, put in a little bit more effort, because that's probably never going to serve you wrong to get more information, to get more background about a subject. As for going out and putting yourself out there, I know for a lot of people, it's one of the most terrifying things in the world. It is awful and scary, and for some people, it just does not work. I think if you can make yourself do it the first time, it gets easier. It's like public speaking. Like, with more practice, you get used to it and you can keep doing it. And eventually, the fear, even if it doesn't leave, will at least be manageable. So just try to do it the first time, at least.
Thank you so much for your advice. This is really helpful. Those are all the questions I have, but yeah, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thank you for taking your time to interview me.
WFSU Public Media's STEM adventures are brought to you by Atkins and FSU's National High Magnetic Field Laboratory.